Do you think they warned for a foot of snow in Denver on September 2nd, 1989? Do you think the TV stations took a lot of flack for not forecasting it? Because most people look at the TV station and think that's the end. Well, the TV stations took a lot of flack, and it was good to be a Weather Service employee that day, except that there was no snow warnings out either. And we all in the Weather Service office in Oklahoma felt so sorry for those Denver guys, because we know how hard it was. It was impossible to see that. Impossible. Gone. 6 hours. Done. Finished. Temperature dropped to, 31 degrees on September 2nd, dropped a bunch of snow, and the next day it was 80. All melted, mud everywhere. Next day it was baked again. That's the way it is.
I was in Denver on July 4th, and Estes Park was closed because of snow. You couldn't go over to the mountains.
Yeah. Estes Park in Colorado. I've driven up on July 3rd to Rocky Mountain National Park and followed the snowplow all the way up. 4 feet of snow still on the ground. Yeah, I don't live there anymore. My wife said the other day, my wife loves to ski. She used to ski a lot. She said, hey, we could go up to Obergatlinburg. I'm like, I'm watching SpongeBob. You go on up. So, well, anyway, we're going to wrap up here pretty quick, but the best things about water vapor imagery that I like are, look at all the little wiggles and major storm systems and all this stuff you could not see in any other imagery. They're not visible. But in water vapor, there they are. And we wouldn't have known as easily how far this fetch of tropical moisture went. And so we were able to see this, and so we had statements and watches out 2 days in advance saying, we're going to get hammered. We are going to get hammered. And here's much rain we think is going to fall. And actually, it was pretty well done. And the TV stations put that on and talked about it. Our website had it up. It was a very well forecast event, and I am so glad it happened this week. As far as being able to tell you what a great job we did. Obviously, there are other times when we don't do such a great job, and now I hope you get a little bit of an idea that it can be fairly tough sometimes to forecast, and satellite doesn't tell you the whole story at all. Okay? Now, what if the satellites disappeared? Because they do break down. In fact, we have one right now that's kind of on its last legs, but it happens. And so they send another one up. You'll read in the paper sometimes, NOAA sends up another weather satellite. And we have to have them, because if we didn't, here's what would happen. We would have no advance notice of hurricanes, except for ships, planes, and islands in the path, just like before the 1960s. That's a big step back. We'd have very, very limited tracking of upper atmospheric waves and jet streams, just like before World War II. That's a huge step back. World War II is when they finally discovered the jet stream, officially. Because they noticed that planes, bombers, flying westward toward Japan took longer than expected. Massive headwinds. Bombers flying on their return trip home got home a lot quicker, which was probably good. Out of there. But they realized they'd had massive tailwind. Something's happening. Winds are blowing in this pattern. Sometimes there were crosswinds at very high speeds, a lot of turbulence. So that's where they started picking up. There was a jet stream, and that's what they called it. There would be no identification of storm systems at night, except for surface observations, just like in the 1800s. We'd have radar, which our network of radars is pretty good across this country, but most countries don't have the same network of radars. So they would have nothing. And again, over the oceans, there'd be no observations at all. Out over the ocean, all that tropical moisture, we'd have no idea it was coming in here. No idea. It would just start raining. We'd see it raining in Georgia and Alabama and go, oh, hope it doesn't come here. And then it would, but it'd be very, very difficult. Okay? All right. My contact email is right there, brian.boyd@noaa.gov. You're welcome to write me. I'll answer you questions you have or whatever. And we also have an outreach program where we come to schools in all of East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia and talk to school classes. You're in school? Did you have fun? Just say yes. And we talk to classes, and I actually have a little kit. I do some experiments like sucking an egg into a bottle and making a cloud in a jar and talk about how weather works. And even if for your group or whatever, we'll be happy to come to your group and do things like that. But contact me there. Our website is weather.gov. That takes you to the National Weather Service main site, has a picture of the United States, and everything's color-coded by county, so you know exactly, and there's a legend, exactly what kind of watches and warnings are out right now officially. Click on East Tennessee, and it'll take you to our office's website in Morristown. And then you can start looking at things like, local Doppler radar, and it's more satellite imagery, and et cetera, et cetera. I just encourage you to investigate the site and find all kinds of things out.
My question is about the eyes on the ground. Do you still have weather observers that you gather information from?
Yes. In fact, thank you for bringing that up. The question is, do we have weather observers on the ground? We have automated sites everywhere that the government uses, FAA, National Weather Service, et cetera, et cetera. We have a lot of times observers at those sites augmenting the observation. An automated thing can't see a tornado, but a person can, so he or she would report that. However, if you get on our website, weather.gov, and then click on East Tennessee, right at the top, there's a link to our spotter training classes. And we have a series of them. It's beginning to be severe weather season now, from now through May. And so we actually go to different counties. They'll have them at different places like the Red Cross or the emergency buildings or whatever, libraries, and train the public who shows up to identify severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, how to report hail, heavy rain, flooding, snow, all this stuff. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, sounds like you're a weather geek. Okay. Who are you with here?
I'm NFL, she's...
Yeah, okay. Okay. So you're a weather weenie. That's what we call people. That's a term of endearment. Now, I'm a meteorologist because I get paid, but you're a weather weenie because you don't get paid to do it. But you like it as much as I do. Okay. So get on the website and look at that schedule. And there's actually an email contact in our office to write to if you have any further questions about it. Okay, separate contact from me. Yes?
You said that there are 2 weather satellites at the equator. Any other satellites help predict the weather at all?
Tons. And they're all over the place. But those are the 2, I don't know.
Okay.
Many. But 1, 2, many. There's those 2 main ones that we use, but there's also other ones for polar regions. There's some that, these are called geosynchronous satellites. Okay, can I use you for an example? Will you come up here for a second? Okay, I'll make you famous. You're gonna be on YouTube, is that okay? Okay, I'm the Earth, obviously, because she's little. And so she's a satellite. If she's a geosynchronous satellite or one of these GOES satellites, she stays in one spot over the Earth. Okay, so if this is Kingsport, Tennessee right here, then I would rotate and she would rotate just like this. Okay? All right, thank you, have a seat. And she would stay right over that one spot looking down the whole time. Those are geosynchronous, they're in orbit over the same spot always. There are others that orbit polar. They go around the poles. So as the Earth turns like this, it's going like this. So it's catching different slices of the Earth all the time. There are other satellites. Go outside and look at this exhibit, and you'll see Landsat satellites for different things. You'll see military satellites for different things. They'll use those sometimes for climate change, sea surface change, fishery activities. Where are the fish? You can see the surface of the sea surface temperature on the Gulf Stream and see little wiggles in it. And where the cold wiggles are, there's a lot of fish in there. Where the warm wiggles are, there's less. So private concerns, government, military, the sky's the limit. Get it? Okay. Yes?
Do you ever superimpose the 3 different kinds of imagery on top of each other to see anything, or does that become too much or a good thing?
To my knowledge, we don't have a way to superimpose satellite imagery on top of each other, but we can change the wavelength that we're looking at to get a different view of things. It'll change the color scheme. We can look at almost anything we want to and change the way it looks. What we can do often is superimpose radar imagery on top of satellite, on top of lightning strike data, on top of surface observations. You can superimpose stuff like that to the point where you don't know what's going on because there's just too much to look at. So our computer systems will put 4 forecast panes up of model data, different levels in the atmosphere. There's different looks at the surface data, satellite, radar,